Have you ever read a book that feels less like fiction and, I don't know, more like a warning? Today, we're diving into a novel that's just that. It's part dystopian thriller, part spiritual journey, and a really powerful call to action. This is our explainer on Atan the Revolutionary by Robert Sean Lewis.
The story kicks off with these words, sung from a stool and a single spotlight. It's a line that just immediately makes you wonder, right? Who is this person, and what kind of weight are they carrying? It sets the stage for a hero who is anything but ordinary.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get to know the man at the center of it all, Atan. Then, we'll explore the broken world he's trying to save and the very unusual kind of revolution he sparks. After that, we'll see what readers are saying, and finally, get to know the author who brought this whole world to life.
So what is it about Atan that's so compelling? Well, he's not your typical hero, not by a long shot. Let's peel back the layers and see who this guy really is.
I mean, you can just see the conflict right here in his description. Atan is a total paradox. He's a white kid who carries the spiritual legacy of an Inuit shaman. He's a musician whose message of love is seen as so threatening that powerful forces, we're talking even the FBI, see him as an enemy. He's just a guy who's been thrown into this huge destiny that he never, ever asked for.
But you know, a character like Atan doesn't just exist in a bubble. The world he inhabits is just as crucial to the story, and it is a very specific and very bleak vision of the future.
So, picture this. The year is 2042. Atan gets smuggled into a Washington, D.C. that is completely locked down, a city under full martial law. The entire nation is described as being on the verge of total collapse. This isn't just some background scenery, it's the oppressive machine that Atan's revolution has to go up against.
Now here's where things get really interesting. This isn't a revolution fought with, guns and bombs. Nope. The novel proposes something way more radical. A revolution of the spirit, a battle for consciousness itself.
And this slide just lays out that core conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the establishment, a world built on fear, on control, and on political power. And on the other side is Atan's vision, which is all about love, freedom, and the kind of deep interconnectedness that comes from things like music and indigenous wisdom. So he's not just fighting a system, he's challenging the very foundation it's built on.
You know, this review from Four Arrows really nails it. The novel is basically a call to get back to our roots, to find that beauty and meaning in a world that often feels like it's designed to crush those very things. It's a struggle, and one that I think a lot of us can probably relate to.
So, the big question is, does this really ambitious story actually connect with people? Let's take a look at what the readers are saying.
Well, the numbers kind of speak for themselves, don't they? Across 21 global ratings, the book is holding a super strong 4.7 out of 5 stars. That's a pretty powerful consensus.
And if you break that down, it's even more impressive. A full 2/3 of readers gave it a perfect 5-star rating, and the rest gave it 4 stars. That means not a single rating is below 4 stars. That's pretty remarkable.
And readers aren't just saying, hey, it's a good story. They're describing something much deeper. This review calls it a call to conscience and an awakening of the soul.
And then there's this one, highlighting its universal appeal and just how gripping it is, calling it eye-opening and impossible to put down. That combination of deep ideas and a page-turning plot is a theme you see over and over.
And this one really gets to the core of it, suggesting the book is more than just fiction. It's seen as a work with sincere integrity and a very challenging truth, blending its story with some carefully researched history and information.
You know, when a book has this much depth, you can't help but wonder about the person who wrote it. So, who exactly is Robert Sean Lewis?
If you look at his body of work, you start to see a really clear pattern. From his very first book to documentaries exploring Inuit and Sufi spirituality to his own memoir, Lewis has spent decades exploring that intersection of culture, politics, and the human spirit. Atan might be his first novel, but it's pretty clear it's the culmination of a lifetime of work.
And this really gets to the why behind the book. His own bio describes his work as a chronicle of his disillusionment with modern religion and politics. This means Atan the Revolutionary isn't just some story he cooked up, it's the result of questions and critiques he's been wrestling with for 2 decades.
And that brings us to our final thought here, which was inspired by one of the reviews. The story champions this idea that true, lasting change doesn't come from a politician, but from a cultural leader, an artist, a singer, a spiritual figure. It's a provocative idea, and it leaves us with a question. In a world that feels like it's on the brink, where should we be looking for our leaders? That's definitely something to reflect on long after you turn the final page.